everyone and welcome to today's video. If you're new here, hi, my name is Luna and welcome to Luna's Bookshelf. In today's video I'm going to talk about the books I read in the month of July. First off, I'm going to give you some statistics, and after that I'm going to talk about the books I've read in the month. So yeah, let's get into it. Hi everyone, I'm going to dive into my July wrap-up in a bit, but I just have to say something. Not everything, the statistics are not completely right, because I did finish another book at the end of July, but just so you know that the statistics you see on the screen are not right with the ones I'm saying. But just so you know. But I just finished another book at the end of July, so that's why the statistics are wrong. So yeah. I'm going to look at my phone a bit for the statistics, so just so you know. Okay, first off, I read 9 books in the month of July, and that are 3,023 pages in total. My average time to finish was 3 days. My most read moods are funny, lighthearted, and emotional. I read most of my books were medium-paced, all fiction books, and the genres I read most was romance. And I read like 56% the digital format and 44% physical books. So yeah, now let's get into the books. So the first book I'm going to talk about is actually a book I read in the month of June, but I read it at the end of the month, so I didn't include it in my June wrap-up video, so I'm going to talk about it now. So that book is Funny Story by Emily Henry. I was so excited for this book because Emily Henry is one of my favorite authors. I love her writing style. I love how she can tell a story and how it can feel so real to me. So I was really excited. I avoided all spoilers, so I didn't know what it was about. I heard some people didn't like it, so I was a little bit scared, but she didn't disappoint me, obviously. It's about Daphne and Miles. They are the two main characters in this book. Daphne is about to marry her fiancé Peter, but after the bachelor party he has with his best friends, including Petra, his girl best friend, he says to Daphne, "I'm sorry, but I can't do this. I'm in love with Petra." So he breaks off the engagement, the marriage. So a lot is going on. But Daphne moved to Whining Bay, Michigan, to be with her boyfriend, her fiancé, so she's there all alone. So she decides to move in with Miles, and Miles is the ex-boyfriend of Petra. So they really don't know each other, but in the beginning it's a little bit awkward because they both got dumped, and now the persons who dumped them are now together, so that's a bit awkward, but it's also something they have in common. So yeah, there's a lot going on in the book. Also with Daphne, she has a difficulty with making new friends. Also her dad, kind of daddy issues. So yeah, a lot's going on, but it's beautifully written. I love the story. I love Daphne and Miles. A lot of people think they remind them of Nick and Jess and New Girl, and I think so too, but also not completely. In some way I get it, but in some way I don't, you know? So yeah, but I gave this book 5 stars, but it's actually one of my 6-star books because it was so good, so good. So yeah, really recommend reading it if you haven't read it yet. Then the next book I read in the real beginning of the month of July is The Match by Sarah Adams. This is my first Sarah Adams book. I picked it up at the airport and I saw that the cover looked very cute, as you can see. So I was like, this sounds good. So this book is about Evie and Jack. Evie has epilepsy and she has a service dog called Charlie. You also see them in the cover. She works for a company who trains dogs to become service dogs, and one day she gets an email from a father who wants to get a conversation, to get a talk, because he wants a service dog for his daughter who also has epilepsy. They made up, and all of a sudden it's a little bit awkward because there is some misunderstanding. So yeah, it's not off to a good start between Jack and Evie, but eventually it comes together. So yeah, but it's a really beautiful story. She has epilepsy, and I've never read a book that includes something like that. I really loved how it was written. It was really fast paced. I read it in like 2 to 3 days off most of all the books I read because I was on vacation, so that's very logical. But I really loved it. I'm going to read a lot of other books by her because it's, I don't know, but her writing style is really easy to get into, and even though it's not that big of a book, I really was invested in the characters and in the story. So if you can do that in this short book, you are a good writer. So yeah, I give this book 4.25 stars. Really recommend reading it. It's not the book I've heard before by Sarah Adams, so I think it's maybe more underrated and not so popular than her other books she has. So if you haven't read yet, really recommend reading it. Then the next book is one of my favorite authors, also one of my anticipated reads of the year, so I was really glad I finally could pick it up, and it was Not in Love by Ellie Hazelwood. Ellie Hazelwood, love her books. Mostly all of her books are stamp romances, so I couldn't wait to get into this one. I did hear some bad reviews before going into it, so I was a little bit scared, but eventually I liked it. So this book is about Rue. She works for a company called Klein. She usually just does one night stand. She doesn't commit to a relationship. And then all of a sudden she meets a guy called Eli. They hook up. Nothing really happens. But after she comes to work the next day, she sees him. And he is one of the guys who wants to buy the company she works for. So that's a little bit complicated, a little bit awkward, if you know what I mean. They just hook up, or they saw each other, and now he wants to buy the company she works for. So yeah, there is a little bit STEM in this book, but not as much as in her other books. There's a lot more spice in this book also, but it's also part of the story, so it's important. So it's not just pure spice, it's important to the story, you know? I liked it, but I do like her other books more. It's still fast-paced, really well written. I mean, it's Ellie Hazelwood. What else can you expect? So I give this book 4.5 stars. So yeah, still recommend reading it, but do know that it's different than her other books and it has a lot more spice in it than her other books. Then the next book is a book I don't have the physical copy of because I read it on my ebook, on my e-reader, and that is Cheat Sheet by Sarah Adams, my second book by her this month. I really love the book. So it's about two friends, and they've been friends since college, really since high school, I think. Yeah, since high school. So they really, I forgot their names. I'm sorry, I don't have the physical copy, so I can't look it up. But they're really good friends. They've been in the friend zone for quite a while now, but they both have a crush on each other. So yeah, it's dual POVs. We see both of the characters. Their POV, you see them both whining over each other like, I'm so in love with you, actually. So yeah, eventually they have to fake date because he's a football player, she's a dancer. They have to fake date. Other things are happening. So yeah, really like the story. Also very fast paced again. I don't think it's also that thick of a book. I think it's like actually like this book, not that thick, but it's one of her more well-known books than, as you see, I still like say The Match. But I really liked it. I loved it overall. Really loved the banter between the two main characters. So yeah, I give this book 4 stars. No, yeah, I give this book 4.5 stars. I'm sorry. So yeah, then after the cheat sheet, there's another book called The Rule Book. So it follows one of the other football players called Derek, and he has an ex-girlfriend. I also forgot, I think her name is Nora. She's an agent, and she has to be an agent for Derek, but they broke off. She broke up with him in college, and it was not the good kind of breakup, so it was with a lot of tears, if you know what I mean. It was not pretty. So yeah, he kind of holds a grudge against her, but they actually still like each other. It's also dual POV. which I always love. Dual PV is just, it makes books just sometimes even better because you get to know both of the characters in a different way. And so yeah, really loved it. I did like it less than the cheat sheet. I just felt a little bit less connected with the characters. I don't know why that was, but it just was. There's also fake dating involved, and I think that's just one of the things you need to know. I give this book 4 stars just because it was a little bit less better than the cheat sheet, in my opinion. Then the next book I read was Butcher and Blackbird by Brian Weaver. It was my first dark romance book. I'm not really a dark romance girly. I'm more like a nice fluffy romance girly, as you see the books I've read previously. So yeah, it was really new to me. I'm still thinking about it. I'm not thinking about it, but it's like I don't know what I need to think of it, because it was okay. It was really nice. It was fast paced, but it's not something I would not read again, you know? I'm also glad I didn't give a lot of money on it, because it was not that my favorite. It wasn't my favorite book, you know? So it's about 2 serial killers. They meet one day and eventually they start to meet up each year to have a competition of some sort. It's really graphic, so know that. There's also a lot of spice in the book. Not everyone's cup of tea, but just so you know before going into the book. I give this book 3.5 stars. It was good, but it was not that great. There is a next book, Leather and Lark, and I do want to read it just because I'm a little bit curious in what that is going to be. So yeah. Then the next book. After reading Butcher and Blackbird, I needed something light. Something fun, something cute, something cozy. So I thought I would pick up The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. I heard a lot of good things about this book by Haley Pham. She really loved it. Also, the author is really good. I had no idea what this book was about. No idea. The only thing I knew was that she is a bodyguard of him. That's the only thing I knew. So I went really blind into this book. Most of the time I know a little bit about the book or the plot, but in this I didn't know anything actually. And this took me by surprise. I'm still thinking about this book. It's so good. I loved it. It's about, she is a bodyguard of him. He is an actor and he has to go to visit his mom because she is sick. But he has been having some crazy fan who's been mailing him, kind of stalking him. So he has to have a bodyguard, you know. So she is coming with him to his mother. But eventually they started to fake date because his family, he doesn't want his family to know he has a bodyguard, because his mom's already sick. He doesn't want them to worry even more. So yeah. So the story follows Jack and Hannah. Hannah is also such a complicated and really nice character. I really love her, and I also love Jack so much. They're both so nice. I really love them. They're one of my favorite book couples. They really are. So yeah. I don't even know what to say about it just because it was so good. I give this book 5 stars, but it's also one of my favorite books. So I'm going to give it 6 stars. I was emotionally devastated after reading this book. I cried a lot and I was not expecting that. So be aware. This book can get you crying like a baby. So yeah. Then the next book I read is Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. It is part of the interconnected series, Part of Your World, but I haven't read the first 2 books. Maybe after now reading this, I kind of regret doing that, because I do think I would have been more invested, in the book. I still really love the book, don't get me wrong. But I was like, everyone's saying you should read it, and then I saw other videos that said it wasn't necessary to read the first 2 books, so I was like, you know what, I'm just going to read it before reading the other books. So yeah, so I rated it 4 stars because I still loved the book. It was really nice written. The characters were also really lovable, likable. So it's about Justin, and he has like crazy things that every time he breaks up with a girl, she finds her soulmate. He posts it on Reddit, and one girl, she sees it, I forgot her name, Emma, and she has the same thing. So every time she breaks up with a guy, he also finds his soulmate. So they thought, why not meet up, fake date, pretend they're in a relationship, and then break up, and so they can find their own soulmate. So yeah, really nice idea, but it's getting a little bit more complicated than that eventually. So yeah, I think it was dual PV. I'm not sure. Yeah, it's also dual PV, so nice. I don't think I'm going to look. No, this one isn't dual PV. I didn't think it was. But yeah, I'm definitely going to read other books by Abby Jimenez after reading this because I did like it. It wasn't well written and etc. So yeah, really interested to see the other two books in this interconnected series to see if I may be more connected after reading this book. So yeah, 4 stars, still good book overall. Then after that book, I read Every Summer After by Carly Fortune on my Kobo. I read one of her newest books last year, and I give it 2 stars. I didn't like it at all. It was good, but it was not even good. I just didn't like it. I give it 2 stars, so that means a lot, you know. So yeah, so I was a little bit hesitant in reading this book, but I did want to give it a try because I did hear her first book, because this is her first book, is a lot better. So I thought maybe why not try it. So I give this book a try. So it takes place in summer in Canada. It switches between the past and the present. So I thought that was nice. I kind of liked that. So yeah, it was good, but it did remind me a little bit of other books like The Summer I Turned Pretty, because it's also with 2 other book guys. I also guessed the plot really in the beginning, just not all of it. But yeah, it was okay. It was not my favorite. I give it 3 stars just because it was like the summer vibes I really loved, and the Summer I Turned Pretty vibes it gave me. So yeah. Then the last book I read this month is actually a book I'm reading currently for a video. So I'm not going to give the rating because I want to wait, because otherwise it wouldn't be nice if you watch the other video that's coming out while I'm reading this book. So yeah, but I'm going to talk about it just for the sake of this video. So the last book I read this month is A Storied Life of A.G. Vickery by Gabrielle Zevin. So this book is about a guy, A.G. Vickery. He owns a bookstore called Island Books on an island, but the business is not going well. In his personal life there are also a lot going on. His wife just died, so he's not in the best place you could be. But eventually, all of a sudden, on a random day, there is a baby, a 2-year-old kid called Maya, on his doorstep at the bookstore. So he decides to take care of this little girl, and since taking care of this girl, his whole life switches and flips upside down. So yeah, it's a really beautiful story. It's well written. It reads also kind of fast. I didn't read it that fast, but you could read it in like 3 days if you have the time, you know. The letters are also very big, so that's also very nice. But yeah, I'm not going to give my rating yet. You'll see that in my video when it comes out. I'm still reading, because I'm reading 3 books for that video, and I'm still reading the second book, so it might take a while. But yeah, I would still want to include this one. Hi! I just, as you saw in my previous clip in the beginning of the video, I talked about how I finished another book. I pre-filmed this video, so that's why. But I also finished Powerless by Lauren Roberts at the end of July. I really loved the book. I'm going to talk about it more in depth in another video, which I'm filming at the moment, so I'm not going to give my rating and a full explanation, but I just wanted to give you guys that little update and say I also finished this book. So I actually read 10 books in the month of July. So yeah, that was it for today's video. That were all the 9 books I read this month. It was my best reading month yet. Really glad I read so many good books, because I read 2 5 stars, if I'm including Funny Story, but also overall a very good reading month. Let me know in the comments what your favorite book was of the month of July, and I see you guys in a new video. Bye!